Hello, my most amazing artists. I hope you're all doing well today, my kindergartners and first graders. We are going to be doing a project using watercolors and some crayons, maybe even some markers. We're just going to do a little project focusing on the process. The process is when you are working on artwork and you're not really thinking about what it's going to look like at the end. You're just enjoying the paint, the crayons. You're enjoying the materials and seeing what happens when you play with them together. And maybe it's kind of a surprise how it turns out in the end. So, for your supplies today, you will need some paper. I have just some plain white paper. I tore it in half into 2 sheets so that we can make 2 paintings, but you could do as many as you want. You could even just do 1, but I did 2. You'll need some watercolor paints, some Crayola paints or something like that. Don't worry if you don't have any watercolors. You could also try out some things with markers. We'll talk about that. You'll need some crayons. Some of you may remember our line paintings from our art project before school let out. So we're going to be playing around with some crayons and seeing what happens when we mix them with paint. I would also like for you to get some masking tape. If you don't have any, that's okay. It's not 100% necessary, but I will be using it and I'll show you how. You'll also need something to hold some water, a paintbrush, any kind of paintbrush, and a paper towel just so that you can dry your brush on it and wipe your brush. As you can see, I've been using this paper towel for other projects, so it looks kind of pretty. I like to reuse it and not waste it. So that's where our project is headed. But first, I'm going to read you a story to begin our lesson. Our story is called The Color Tree. I don't know if any of you have read this story. If you have, then it's like visiting an old friend. And if you haven't heard it before, then you can enjoy it with me for the first time. So, like I said, it's called The Color Tree. It's by Denise Bennett Mennerly. Once upon a time, there was the sun and hills and a small apple tree, but there was no color to be seen anywhere. The tree grew and grew, apples appeared, but there was no color anywhere. You can see just black and white. The tree continued to grow, and the apples grew big and round. Soon, the apples began to fall to the ground, turning red, yellow, and blue. As they fell, a small boy holding a balloon appeared. See? Have you ever seen a blue apple before? I wish that I had. That would be cool. And holding his balloon, he floated down to see the red, yellow, and blue apples. He was so happy to see the big, bright apples. I would be too if I lived in a world where there was just black and white lines. If I saw these colorful apples, I would be happy too. You see how happy he is? The boy picked up a large blue apple and tossed it up into the sky. The apple turned the sky blue. He picked up a yellow apple and threw it at the sun. The apple colored the sun golden yellow. What do you think is going to happen next? Now the boy decided to have some fun, juggling the red and blue apples. The apples fell together upon the hills, painting them purple. Next, he began to toss yellow and blue apples high into the air. The apples came tumbling down all around him, coloring the ground green. When the wind blew his balloon back to him, he threw the red and yellow apples at it. The balloon turned into a beautiful orange. As the balloon slowly pulled the boy up into the air, he threw a red apple at the tree. And the apples, all the apples, turned a bright red. The boy floated away in joy, knowing the world was now filled with color. That was pretty great, wasn't it? That really talked about how the colors mix together to make other colors. So, you start out with red, yellow, and blue. Those are our primary colors. That means that you can't mix any other colors together to get them. And then you mix red and blue and you get purple. Red and yellow, you get orange. And blue and yellow to get green. So we're going to play around with that today. And we're going to play with a lot of different colors. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tape and tape down my paper onto my messy mat. And I'm going to be nice and careful about it, making what kind of looks like a frame around my paper with tape. I'll do this really quickly so that we can get started. Oops, sliding everything everywhere. So I'm doing this so that I have a nice clean line around my paper. And also my paper won't slide around. And sometimes when you use watercolor on paper, the paper starts to curl up. You might have noticed this before if you ever tried to paint on notebook paper or computer paper. This will keep the paper a little more flat. So we'll just see. We'll see what happens. Almost done, almost ready to start painting. Make sure you have your water, your brush, your paper towel, and your paint. All right, I'm gonna run my hands over the tape, really pressing it down, making sure it's stuck down. Okay, so first, remember I talked about our crayons. So, boys and girls who were in my kindergarten class, you remember we did our line paintings. First, we took crayons and we made lines across the page in different patterns with crayon. And some of you might not have gotten to the point of adding the paint yet. So, what happens when you use wax crayon with watercolor is the watercolor paint will not stick to the wax. So it creates a really fun, interesting effect called wax resist. So for my piece on this side, I'm going to use some crayons and I'm just going to do some designs. I'm going to take yellow, one of our primary colors. This is called Canary. And I'm going to do, let's see, do some circles. Do a few circles here. I'm just going to see what happens. And you can do anything you want. You could color. I'm going to switch to pine green. No, actually I'll do blue first, sky blue. Maybe I'll do some that go and overlap, do some squares. Just making sure I'm really coloring. Instead of coloring really light, I'm coloring sort of heavy here so you can really see the marks that I'm making. I'm going to color over here. Now, with crayons, the colors don't really blend together very well because of the wax, but I'm using blue and yellow. And if I mix blue and yellow together, that makes green. So I'm gonna do some little bursts of green here to make me think about how these colors mix together. And in this light, you can even sort of see that this is more of a bluish green. And then maybe I'll find myself a red crayon. I'm digging around. Ooh, this is a glittery red. I'll try this one. Do red crayon. And now, do we remember what red and blue make from our story, from the color tree? Red and blue blend together to make purple. So we'll add some purple. And I'm just having fun here, coloring, imagining what it would be like if these colors were mixing together. Maybe I'll do a little swirly pattern here. And I've got a different color of purple here. This one's called Orchid. It's like a flower. No color. And again, I'm just enjoying the process, enjoying playing around with the crayons, with the materials, because it's all about just seeing what happens, not about trying to make anything fancy or perfect. All right, and now remember our yellow and red colors mix together too in the color tree, right? Maybe I'll make a little zigzag. So what happened when the red and yellow mixed together? Those made orange, right? Let me find a good orange that can really show up. Here's one. Ooh, neon carrot. I bet this one is awesome. Oh, that's like a neon orange. Look at that. Woo! Neon carrot. I want to find one that's more like a true orange. Here's a... I'm over here digging around in my crayons, friends. Look at all these crayons I have. Let's see. Oh, there's one. Yellow orange. So that even mentions the color of orange and yellow. Ooh, I like this one. Okay, so I have done a lot of coloring here, and who knows what this is going to turn out to look like, right? Blow away some of my crayon dust. And now I'm going to take my brush and let's see. I think I'm going to do some yellow down here. So I'm going to take my brush, dip it in my water, wipe it on the lip of the jar so it's not dripping all over the place. Making sure my brush is nice and wet, but it's not dripping. And I'm going to dip it in my yellow paint. And I'm going to swirl it around, swirling and swirling, really getting a lot of paint on my brush. See how my brush is starting to turn a little bit yellow? And then I'm going to take my brush and it's going to stand on its tippy toes like a ballerina. Go side to side here. Remember how we did this, kindergartners? Side to side. First graders, if you haven't painted with me yet, I like to see my brushes staying on their tippy toes, not squishing down like this. Side to side, tippy toes like a ballerina. Getting more water, swirling it in the paint, and painting side to side. All right, so I've done yellow. And I'm going to rinse my brush. And then I think for my next part, I'm going to do another primary color. What were my primary colors? They were yellow, red, and blue. I think I'm going to do red next. I'm going to take my red. I had lots of water in my brush, swirling and swirling on tippy toes, not squishing, tippy toes. And then I'm going to go side to side. And I'm not using any white, leaving any white space. I am having the red touch the yellow. Getting some more water, swirling, getting some more paint. And do you notice what's happening when my brush goes over the wax of the crayon? It's not sticking, right? The wax is resisting the watercolor. It's almost like magic. It looks really cool right there, right guys? I'm going to get some more red. I want to make my red really nice and dark here. Let's see. Oh yeah, doesn't that look so cool, friends? All right, now for my last part, I'm going to do my last primary color, which was blue, right? So I'm going to do the dark blue or the light blue. Well, I did a light blue here. So I'm going to do more of a dark blue. So I'm going to choose my dark blue. I'm going to get lots of water on my brush, swirling and swirling. All right, here we go. I think I've got enough. And I'm going to go side to side. Remember, I'm making my colors touch to see what happens when they blend. Do you see them blending here on the tape? Wow, this looks like magic. It is so awesome. I'm so excited about how this painting is going to turn out. Oh my goodness, boys and girls. I am so happy with how this looks. Wow. I'm going to do a little more blending down here because that's making almost a purple color, just like we thought. Now, do you see how the paper is getting a little bit wavy? That's why the tape helped me out here, because it's going to keep it a little more flat. Again, it's okay if you don't have tape, don't worry. But look at these beautiful colors that are blending here on the side. A little of the red has even traveled down over into the yellow. Man, I cannot wait to see how this looks when it dries. So cool, friends. Now, if you do not have watercolors at home, do not despair, my friends. Don't feel sad. That's what that means. You can still use a brush and some water, or even a paper towel and some water, and you can use some markers. I have some markers here, but you can do the same thing, taking your crayons. This time, I think I'm even going to use our friend the white crayon. Now, if I color on white paper with a white crayon, normally, nothing really happens, right? You can't really see it very well. Maybe I even do some little, so it's like an invisible crayon. Invisible means that you can't see it. Have you ever heard that spies use invisible ink? So this is even like invisible ink. So maybe I even write, oops, I broke my crayon. That's okay, it still works, right? Maybe I even write a little secret message. Now, I'm going to take my markers, and your markers are water-based. That means that their ink is made with water. So they will also resist the crayon, and it'll look a little bit different. But do you notice that your marker isn't sticking to the crayon? Now, if I want to make my marker act a little bit more like paint, I can take a wet brush that's just clean water, and I can run it over where I did my marker, and see, my marker is almost becoming paint. That's pretty cool. But I want to make sure I do all of my marker part first. That was just an example. I want to do all of my marker part first, because you don't want the tip of your marker to go on wet paper, because it can mess up your marker. So we're going to do all of our designs first with marker. I'm going to take my primary colors first, and let's just do a little experiment here. I'm going to use my red And I'm going to do some coloring. And then I'm going to take my blue. And I'm going to do a little bit of coloring here. I'm going to leave a little white space just so that I can see what happens. And boys and girls, I'm not really even sure what's going to happen. Ooh, that's like a neon yellow. I'm going to use my regular yellow too. Just coloring here. And then now that I've got all my primary colors, I'm going to take my green, which is a secondary color, and look, my secret message is appearing. Hello, there's my message. What's another secondary color? A color that is mixed between two primaries. So red and yellow will make orange. Red and blue will make purple. And blue and yellow will make our green. Now I've just done some random bits of color here, and I'm going to take my wet brush and I'm going to go over the marker and just see what happens. See, boys and girls, it's turning into paint. And I'm going to mix together my blue and purple. And look, that looks pretty cool, right? I'm going to rinse my brush before I mix any other colors here. So I'm going to take my red and blue and I'm going to make them go together. And you see, it's making sort of a different type of purple. I can even take some of that color down here so that I can really see it. It made sort of a brownish purple, which is interesting, but when I add more blue, it becomes more like a purple that we're used to seeing. Pretty neat. All right, I want to get all of my red to turn purple because I want to take some of my red and blend it with my yellow. And there we go. It's turning into orange. Oh, but my blue is going in there. That's okay. We're trusting the process. We're just letting whatever happens happen here. Taking my yellow, my orange, making it have lots of water. Going over my crayon so that I can see my designs. Now I want to go over my green. I bet my green is going to look so great. Now I'm going to start filling in my white spaces because I really want my whole painting to blend together. And I just want to see what happens when different colors mix. So when orange and green mix, they kind of make this weird color, right? I don't really know what even the name for that color would be because it's not quite a brown. I expected it to be brown, but it really wasn't. And then I'm going to fill in this space here. And you know, you can dry off your brush and sort of suck up some of the color, almost like a sponge. Or you could even take a little piece of paper towel, like I did, and suck some of the paint off of the paper to create some little patterns and make even like a stamp. What do you think, friends? So that's how you can still enjoy some painting at home, even if you don't have paint, because the ink in our markers is water-based. That means the pigment is what makes the color, is mixed with water to create ink. So those are our two paintings. And now I am going to very carefully start to remove my masking tape. And I hope that it's going to come off of the paper pretty easily without tearing my paper. We'll see. Okay, boys and girls, look at that clean line. Notice that I'm tearing very slowly, taking my tape off, because if I pull too fast, I might rip my paper. And I don't want to do that, right? Especially because my paper is a little bit delicate because it's wet. So I'm going to carefully, and see how it's starting to tear the paper a little bit up here. So I'm just going to be nice and careful to make sure that it doesn't destroy my beautiful artwork that I made. Taking off the tape very carefully. Uh-oh, starting to tear. So I'm gonna go from the other side because that side's starting to tear a little bit. Okay, peeling it up. It's pretty satisfying watching that tape come up, right? Because you see this beautiful clean line. I'm going to move my hand down, being careful. I just want to make sure that I don't tear into my painting. Oop, a little bit tore. That's okay. We make mistakes. Still looks really cool. Now, last one. I'm going to hold down the paper here with my finger to make sure it doesn't come up and tear or crumple up my beautiful page. Okay, here we go. Almost done. Almost done. And my beautiful piece of artwork is complete. And look how nice and neat it looks because I used that tape. Isn't that awesome, boys and girls? So, by trusting the process, meaning that we just played around with the materials and we just let whatever happen, happen, we came up with this wonderful abstract piece of artwork. Abstract means that it's not a drawing or painting of anything specific like a guitar or a piece of cheese or a cat, but it's just shapes and colors and lines blending together to make something beautiful. So I invite you to play around with this process using crayons for wax resist, and then adding watercolor or markers and adding water to the markers after you're done to create a piece of process art. So boys and girls, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to start taking the tape off of my other piece very carefully. And I really look forward to seeing any artwork that you submit into the Google Forms. That way I can take the artwork that you've made and share it in our masterpiece gallery. And let me know if you have any questions. Did you like this project? Did you have fun? What did you think was challenging? What did you think was the best part? I can't wait to hear from you, and I hope that you're all doing really well. I miss seeing you face to face, but I can't wait to see you at the beginning of school next year. So, boys and girls, just always do your best and stay creative. Bye!